On the same day as the tragic shooting in Orlando, there was another individual who had a small arsenal in his car in California, and luckily he was caught by police before he went to the Gay Pride Parade in West Hollywood. Now, James Wesley Howell is the person who luckily got caught after neighbors alerted the authorities when they saw his car just parked in their neighborhood. When they found the small arsenal, authorities did decide to arrest him and detain him. So he's been in custody since, but now we have more information about him and his possible criminal past. Now, Howell took a 12-year-old girl to a state forestry property on May 31st in Indiana and had sex with her. Mull, who is the prosecutor in this part of Indiana, is basically saying that he met this girl through an adult friend. Okay, so basically this man is facing child molestation charges in his own state, and he decided to skip town, come to California, and who knows what he was planning on doing with those weapons. James Wesley Howell faces 1 count of child molestation in southern Indiana's Clark County. If convicted, he faces up to 16 years in prison. Just to give you some more information about what California authorities found in his vehicle, they charged him on Tuesday with 3 felony weapons and ammunition charges after he was found in Santa Monica with a loaded assault rifle with magazines rigged to allow 60 shots to be fired in quick succession, plus 15 pounds of chemicals already mixed and ready to explode. So again, I mean, he told the authorities he was planning on going to the Gay Pride Parade. He had this small arsenal. I think it's fair to speculate that he was planning on causing some harm, but luckily he was caught before anything could happen. And now we find out that he had sexual relations with a 12-year-old. He's 20.
Let's talk about Howell's record and his personal history for a second. The man has now twice been caught intimidating someone with a weapon. He went to prison for a year. He was suspended. They wouldn't allow him to own a gun. I mean, they took his guns away. And yet, he still somehow acquires weapons and can statutory rape a 12-year-old girl, move freely across state lines, go to California, and possibly try to attack the Gay Pride Parade there.
What's really interesting is how there seems to be, in some cases, a huge double standard between nonviolent drug offenders and actual violent offenders, right? So right now in the United States, we have more than 3,000 people spending their entire life in prison without the possibility of parole for non-violent offenses. Okay, this was reported by the ACLU a few years ago. No chance of parole. So this is based on 3 strikes policies and things like that. You get caught with pot 3 times, you're done. It's a 3-strike. Well, it's not just the Clintons. I mean, it's the for-profit prison industry funding various politicians throughout the country, members of Congress, in order to come up with these ridiculous sentences. So again, you have nonviolent drug offenders spending the rest of their lives in prison, but then you have someone like this who has brandished his weapon and threatened people. You've had, what were the other cases that you mentioned? He's already been in prison for a year.
He's like on intimidation, on using a weapon, to intimidate his boyfriend. By the way, Howell is bisexual, for those of you who do not know. And then another account where he used the weapon to threaten his neighbor. At that point, first of all, that's illegal, okay? And you've already shown that you don't have the adult responsibility to use a weapon in the correct way, whatever that may be, right? For hunting purposes or for protecting yourself. And at that point, you shouldn't have a weapon. Like, they should not allow you to have a weapon anymore.
Well, look, to be fair, first of all, the chemicals and everything that he had are not legal. He's not supposed to have that. But but I don't know if he legally obtained those weapons for sure. Do you know for a fact that he obtained them illegally or legally? I don't know. So, but look, this is the argument that comes up a lot when you talk about.
Well, he's a gun enthusiast. That's why I was assuming that his arsenal is mostly legally obtained.
So we're assuming, though, and I don't want to assume, we don't know for sure how he obtained the guns. They could have been obtained illegally. I just want to be clear about that. But the one thing that I want to say is, every time you have discussions about gun control, people will say like, oh, well, if people want to get their hands on guns illegally, they can get them illegally, right? Yeah, I get that. But part of the reason why it's so easy to get them illegally is because it's the easiest thing to be in this sea of guns that we're in right now, right? You go to gun shows with the loopholes. People deny that the gun show loophole exists.
It
drives me insane when people deny it. I mean, there are reporters that literally go to these gun shows and they prove on camera that they can get as many weapons as they want from the back of somene's truck.
I think an 18-year-old, an 18-year-old recently bought a gun in Pennsylvania, I believe, the AR-15 that was used, who, with an expired license.
Anyway, it just drives me crazy. Grace, jump in.
Right. Well, what I'm taking away from this story is that this is, on every front, a guy that has proven himself to be a bad seed in society. And I'm hearing the discussion that you guys are having about his easy access and the number of loopholes, or loopholes that he probably obtained these guns legally, or we can speculate on that. But I just don't understand how it got to the point where he got so close to LA Pride after the number of times that he had shown himself to not be a good guy. And then you have these non-violent offenders for drug-related crimes a lot of the time that are behind bars for years, and this guy is around, you know, again, molesting a 12-year-old girl who, I actually kind of think this article, to be fair, is a little bit gross because it talks about how she developed a crush on him. I don't think you should be talking about that when it comes to a 12-year-old girl. I mean,
they're stating facts. It's the Associated Press, though.
Right,
like,
but to talk about a 12-year-old girl developing a crush, he's manipulating her. That's not a crush. You know, that to me, that makes it kind of romanticizes the fact that he molested a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
This is a bad guy that got really close to ruining one of my favorite days of the year. And I think that we should be angry about this. We should be very upset.
I'm definitely angry. And look, you know, news has been so devastating this week that the only thing you can do is really focus on some of the silver linings. And luckily, he got caught before he caused any damage. But, you know, his ex-boyfriend spoke to the press and talked about how, you know, he was a little strange, he was a loner type, and I couldn't really put my finger on it, but there was something off about him.
Temper. Says that he had a very short temper.
I think if you're intimidating people with a gun, you're probably not in the right mindset.
And also, here's another thing. Let me just put this out there, okay? People keep making this argument that NSA spying is necessary for national security, right? They keep saying that over and over again. Like, no, it works, you know, it's like the best way to catch terrorists. And like, really?
Yeah, didn't really do much for San Bernardino.
Bulk collection of data, okay, just indiscriminately spying on all Americans is obviously not helping, because when it comes to dangerous people, mass shooters in particular, apparently we don't have the ability of catching them ahead of time. Obviously, these people are around other individuals, communicating with them. I mean, the FBI investigated the Orlando shooter twice. Really, you guys didn't find anything to
and
decide that maybe he shouldn't have had guns?
This was a case of basically neighborhood watch sort of thing, where the neighbors were like, what is that car doing? Like, this is suspicious. This wasn't, you know, a check mark for NSA about how wonderful the surveillance program is. That would have been a great story to break. You know, wow, look at, they were, you know, keeping tabs on this guy, and they stopped him right before he went to LA Pride. But this was a neighbor. You know, this doesn't make an argument, I think, for mass surveillance.
Yeah, and also, there's so many different issues that are constantly playing over and over again in my head. So the surveillance is one of them. And then, of course, the issue of gun control. I don't know why it is that as soon as you mention the most common sense gun legislation, right? Gun legislation that actually would not impact law-abiding citizens at all. Those same law-abiding citizens lose their minds, right? So why are you so adamant about ensuring that the 10,000 people on the terrorist watch list have access to guns?
Well,
why are you concerned about
that?
That's
why effective lobbying, though. That is definitely lobbying efforts.
No, there's some of our progressive viewers. Some of our progressive viewers will email into me and they'll say, no probable cause. So people on the terrorist fucking watch list should have access to guns.
First of all,
you are not a reasonable person.